Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires that we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
I am a man of constant sorrow. I've seen troubles all my day. In constant sorrow through my days.
So not good.
I'm fair and partly cloudy.
Yeah, the weird thing is, that's not the song I have stuck in my head.
Somewhere between our geeking on Black Friday and now, I have caught the mother of all colds. And I also have a friend who also has caught it, although I think probably from different spots. So if you didn't catch it, God bless you. Because, damn, this is one of those things you would not wish on your worst enema.
Well, the thing to remember is my working at the group home means that I'm exposed to everything.
I was when I was up in the public eye of the airport. That first year I worked TSA, I caught everything but that bird flu that was going around.
I caught that. Somebody asked if I caught it, and I said, yep, all I remember, I had it for like 4 or 5 days, and all I remember is that little boy who was supposedly trapped in a balloon and really was hiding in the attic. Because I was falling in and out of sleep while watching the news. And it's just, we're following this balloon, and they followed the balloon forever, and then...
Oh, the balloon boy.
And then, the balloon has come to the ground, but he's not in it!
He's gone! Oh, well. What song's in your head?
Papa was a rolling stone, my son. Wherever he laid his hat was his home. So, yeah, the Temptations.
Look at those downloads drop. I guess we're just not the singers here, are we?
Well, you aren't.
Hey, I'm a singer. I used to be.
Yeah.
I should, one of these days, I'll pull out my my old choir tapes if I can find them on 8-track. I used to sing. I was in musicals. We actually had a choir teacher who was classically trained. So she taught us all that important stuff like how to breathe and hit the high notes.
Yep, we were taught that too, and I was the lead bass.
I could see that.
And that's probably, well, I think I've told this story before. I've done karaoke one time. Once. It was when my first trip to New Orleans, and I used to have very long hair. I miss having long hair, Joe. I miss it.
Hippie. 60s is over.
Yeah. It was more punk. It was like Joey Ramone hair. But anyway, I was at the bar, and I went to a karaoke bar, and somebody said, "Aren't you the lead singer of the Crash Test Dummies?" And I said, no, it's not me. And he said, come on, head on up, sing a song. We'll buy you a beer. And my voice can be naturally deep, as you can tell. So, yeah, I went up and I sang one of the songs and never had to pay for a drink the whole night.
Cool.
I never said I was him. I never said I was Brad Roberts. Just when people asked, I said, no, it's not me.
The only place I ever sang karaoke was in a gay bar called Innuendo. And we were there because I guess as part of the city thing, since a new business opened up in a fairly prominent part of town. A lot of people from my wife's office and the mayor of St. Paul, they went. And I got drunk enough on mojitos. And
now, which mayor was this? I'm betting I know which mayor it wasn't.
Well, the one that Chris works for.
It wasn't old
Mr.
Norm.
Coleman. No, I don't think Norm would have cared if a gay bar opened up or not.
I don't think he
did
would have
that
showed up at one.
Anytime a business opened, Coleman would try to visit. Chris, that is.
See, that's a cool idea.
No relation.
That's a cool idea. We need more mayors getting involved.
And that's what we needed. We needed an old-fashioned geek day, so we chose Black Friday.
Which is probably good.
All Fridays matter, but we chose this one because it's rare that Cory gets a day off, and it's rare that I get a weekend off. And so, and then it gives us a whole podcast we can talk about, because we
That's
were
right.
just a horrendous gluttony of consumerism and mass consumption. Oh, it was glorious.
It was. I had a good time. And Joe got to see the new car.
I did. Very nice. I felt bad because we'll talk about the one place we stopped had dirt parking lot, and then we kind of dragged the dirt in on your nice clean carpets. I mean, I know they can be shampooed and all that, but yeah.
Well, no, I vacuumed.
That's good, because I did try to knock the dirt off, and I was like, that didn't work, did it?
And we had the Sirius satellite radio. I knew Joe was going to be riding, so I put it on the Beatles channel.
And that was fun.
Rather than what I normally listen to, which is Underground Garage. But no,
I would have liked that too. But who knew I would actually care what Miley Cyrus listens to, Beatle-wise?
Yeah, they did a weekend of celebrities saying their 4 favorite Beatles songs. And
of course, Dennis Leary was there, and he's selling a book, so he didn't really tell us about his most embarrassing moment with Paul McCartney. As a fan, he said you got to buy the book to find out, but he was embarrassed enough to keep mentioning it between all the songs he chose.
Yes, I'm sure that was why he kept mentioning it.
I kept thinking we should do that, but I know we don't have the rights to the Beatles songs, and I don't think we should worry about that.
And I've never met Paul McCartney.
I'd have to think long and hard about what 4 songs out of all of the Beatles that I would choose to be like, yes, these are the best.
Well,
and you know me, I don't want to think.
Instead, we're going to talk about comic books.
We is.
And the first shop we went to.
I got to tell you, though, I think, Cory, by the time we're done, you added what, about a 1/4 ton of omnibus to your foundation? I mean, seriously, you're either going to disappear in a sinkhole, because there ain't no way a tornado is going to lift your house.
No. There were only 3 omnibuses. There were a bunch of other hardcovers, but only 3 omnibuses.
Omnibi. They have good R factor for the winter,
And they were 3 that I wouldn't have picked up if they weren't so damn cheap.
Yeah. And one I may have to go back and get, although we'll get to it when we talk about it. The first shop we tried to get to is a place called Toyriffic. 2950 White Bear Avenue in Maplewood. You got to get there quick, because they're looking to close permanently on December 30th. When we got there, they hadn't opened yet, because oddly enough, we got there pretty damn early for us. We
were moving fast because I wanted to. Well, first off, I get up early anyway, because I wake up about 5:30, 5:45 every day. And you think, oh, well, it's a day off, you can sleep in. Yeah, well, your brain still goes, got to get up. Matter of fact, I learned something at the group home this morning. It's a mini hanging at the home, Joe.
We got it all.
So I have had to do sleeping overnights all weekend because people kept calling in sick. So I did a sleeping overnight last night, and I had to be at the full-time job at 7 in the morning. So what I did, I brought in my clothes, took a shower before I went in, and brought my clothes so that I could wake up a little earlier and change, because the drive I would basically get from the group home to the full-time job and have about 10 minutes. So I didn't even have time to go home. So I bring in my clothes, hang them up, and lay down and set my alarm. And normally what happens is my alarm goes off in the cottage I slept in. We'll just call it cottage 1. The cottage I slept in last night. And normally when my alarm goes off, about 2 minutes later, one of the clients comes out and starts turning on the lights and turning on the TV, and he's ready to go. Well, this morning, my alarm went off 20 minutes earlier because I wanted to get up, kind of clean up, shave, wash my hair and everything. So the alarm goes off. 2 minutes later, he's out of his room, turning lights on, turning the TV. So I honestly think that he probably wakes up around 5 in the morning and then just stands by his door, waiting for my alarm to go off. Because I'm serious. It was, I hit the snooze and it's like, oh, okay, I could get another couple minutes of sleep. I had kind of relax, and why are the lights on? God damn it, Steve.
He's so bright.
So I was up, and on the road by 8 a.m. to go hang with Joe. And I did not know that your doorbell does not work.
Yes, which was cool because I sat there for 10 minutes and watched him press the doorbell.
Oh, you were watching. Okay.
No, I wasn't. I actually was, I don't know what I was doing. I was in the throngs of coldism.
Nah, you were playing on.
I was
just playing on
disappointed
eBays.
I was all ready to go and have a nice IHOP breakfast. And of course, Cory, in his massive selfishness, apparently downed an entire pie on the way over.
No. I ate a breakfast biscuit.
Oh, well, did he offer me one? No, we had to stop at Holiday. I don't know what I had. Did I have donuts again?
Yes, you had donuts.
Yeah, it wasn't an official trip, so we didn't need road trip donuts, but donuts nonetheless. So our first stop.
I was up a little before 6, so by 7 I was like, oh my God, I am starving. I am going to die if I don't eat something.
I was actually hungry getting up, which is weird because usually I'm not. But so we tried to get to Toyriffic, but they didn't open till noon. So we said, guess what? We'll come back.
They didn't like us.
However, we were right next to a half price in Maplewood, 2982 White Bear Avenue in Maplewood, of course, and they were doing 20% off all books. Everything. I think just everything in the store. There might be a few exceptions here and there, but so we meandered in. And do you remember what you got there, Cory?
Yeah, I picked up the art of the Simon and Kirby Studio. Let's see. I've got the stack over there.
Yeah, I got my pile.
Let me go get my stack so I can remember.
While he does that,
Joe, entertain the people.
You know, the funniest thing about Cory when you're driving, and I tell you, this is hilarious because every time I've driven with Cory a few times. We've gone to shows and things like this, and usually I'm the driver because I may be a rider, but I'm a terrible passenger. I mean, if I can't control, and I must have really been starting to get ready with this cold and stuff because I did not even mind that Cory was driving, and so the one thing I did notice, and this was in between looking at his new car smell, but every time are you back?
Yes.
Okay, I'll finish this story later.
What sort of horrible things are you telling people?
Hey, you'll just have to listen to the podcast when you post it. I was well behaved at this place, mainly because if you remember a couple podcasts back, I actually had hit all of the half-price bookstores in town with the exception of the Maplewood one that we just hit now. And I went and I looked through their what do you call it? They always lock up their premium books, and I didn't really see a lot of stuff. There were a lot of people in the store, though. I mean, they were digging through stuff. First 100 that went in got like a bag. We got there late enough so we didn't have to wait in line, didn't get a bag. But I picked up the Brightest Day Omnibus, which I guess I don't know where the heck this ties into all this thing. It's after Blackest Night, and Jeff Johns wrote it. And I just remember enjoying it, reading it, and since I blew out all my copies at which I will now call the Purge, back at the last MCBA FallCon, I don't have them anymore, except maybe a few of the variants. So I figured, you know what, I'll pick this up because it was cheap, and it gives me a good chance to just have something to read. And because I spent over... I don't know what it was. I got a coupon. I got a calendar at one of half-price bookstores calendars that has like coupons for every week of the year, so I can go and spend more money that I don't have at a bookstore. Oh man, this is great. I love doing that. So what'd you get, Mr. Strode?
Let's see. I picked up the Art of the Simon and Kirby Studio, the New Frontier, the deluxe edition.
Which I think I have already. Otherwise, I'd have nabbed one of those.
And then I picked up a bunch of paperback books. They had a real nice selection. I'm used to the half-price book magazine in St. Louis Park, and they don't really have anything from before like 5-6 years ago because they're smaller. But they had a lot of good vintage crime novels. So I picked up some John D. MacDonald that I didn't have, and there was a new author who's got He's a Swedish author who they're saying, oh, this stuff is like the girl with the dragon tattoo. So I figured I'd pick up one of those, and if I like it, I can go back and get the 9 others, and they're all like, 600 pages. So it's like, oh yeah, Swedish, they have long winters. And that was really about it for what they had that I picked up. I didn't drop a whole lot of money there because, it was the first shop, but I was really excited to get that Art of Simon and Kirby. That is the one that I've read. And there's a nice introduction by Mark Evanier, but the rest of it, it's not an artist edition, but it is just reproductions of original art. And they say it's the Simon and Kirby studio because back when they had their studio, everything was so divided that there's really no way to say who drew what. Because, okay, Jack would draw the people, and this person would draw this, and this person would do the inking, and this person would take care of backgrounds, and they were just trading pages back and forth to get stuff done. But if you're a Simon and Kirby fan, this is a really great book because it's shot from the original artwork itself from the 40s and 50s. So really a beautiful book, and they had it for $20. This is a $50 book, and still $50 on the Amazon. So. But that's where I loaded up on my paperbacks. Good reading.
And good reading has to go with good soda. The next place we stopped was a place we've been to before, Blue Soda Shop up in Spring Lake Park at 1625 County Highway 10. Unfortunately, we got there the day before their big blowout. They actually had expanded from the last time we were there. So you got the original soda shop, and then they branched out with candies. They had a whole wall of pinball games. I think I played Highway Pursuit and then a couple rounds of Pinbot, which I remember from my old arcade days. And then you turn around, you could actually see the Whistler soda pop machine that this thing is vintage, and they crank it up. They actually have Whistler soda samplers. On certain days, you can tour and watch the thing fill. So it was kind of nice, just kind of looking around. I didn't buy much because I'm kind of, if I'm not buying something comic-wise, I'm just kind of looking for knick-knack gifts. And I picked up some things to put into the girls' stockings. Brainwash soda, an old one that we talked about years ago, including the infamous one that turns your pee blue.
Yes, Brainwash Blue. Brainwash Blue.
I should have gotten 2 blue, but I got 1 red, 1 blue, and then I got something called Lolly's Cherry Pop energy drink for my wife because she likes always cherry sodas. Although in past, when I get the girls these, they usually laugh, and then either they take a sip and throw it away, or it just languishes in the fridge until I decide to give it to somebody.
Or you drink it.
Well, no, I bought myself a Dad's Root Beer diet, and I already drank that, so I may have to go back, though. What kind of goodies did you get for yourself?
I picked up 24 because I don't get up there that much. They had Kickapoo Joy Juice on sale, and I just got a sample of stuff. I got some sarsaparilla, I got some root beers, I got some banana-flavored soda, I got some sweet corn-flavored soda, and but a lot of nostalgia stuff, the Frosty root beer, which I had as a child, and so I'm down to only 10 of my 24 Rat Bastard root beers. So
I just got the one staring at me. We did ask about it, and the woman working there said that it's hard for them to get. So
what I find is fascinating about it is that they had other drinks from the Skeletines Company.
Yeah.
So they had the drink. They had Fucola Cola, which that's how you have to pronounce it. Brainwash Blue is from them.
Yep.
But they must not have made too much of the Rat Bastard root beer this year. Rat Bastards.
I did not see the what was the really, really sour soda?
The Black Lemonade.
Yeah, I didn't see that, but then again, I wasn't looking too hard either, so I kind of looked right over it.
So, yeah, one thing that's different, they had a lot more pinball machines, but now they charge for the pinball. Because the last time you took me, they did not charge for pinball.
It's only a quarter, though.
I know.
Especially, it took me a while. I mean, I won one game, and I was trying to get the hang on Pinbot, and it's like you start to remember, the touch and the feel, and then, of course, you run out of quarters.
Yes.
That ball drained. So, and I didn't bring any cash this time around. I figured I'd just put it on the credit, PayPal, whatever. And I wish I had brought a little bit more cash, because I probably would have just sat and played pinball the rest of the day.
They did have some other candy, too, so I was able to finally get, because last time I saw it, I didn't get it. But this time I did get the maple syrup and pancake jelly beans. And then at their discount table, I picked up the Jelly Belly box set of booze-flavored jelly beans.
I think I picked up some licorice, like apple-flavored and like some cherry rhubarb stuff. Same thing, just off the liquidation thing. So I'm like, whatever, just something to nosh on. So since we had such good luck at one half price, we decided to go to a second half price bookstore. This was when it was up in Northtown in Coon Rapids, 8601 Springbrook Drive. So I didn't see anything. This was one of the ones that I had hit before, so I didn't really pick up anything. But once again, I just sat and waited as Cory rummaged through the mounds and miles of shelves. And what there did you pick up there, Mr. Strode?
More paperbacks, and then I picked up the Avengers Essential Avengers number 10. Because I'm now at the point where if I see essentials in the wild cheap, I'm going to get them. Because especially the later ones, you look online and they're going for bigger and bigger bucks all the time. So it's one of those, if I have it, well then I'll just put it out on an Amazon Marketplace for $50 like everybody else is doing.
No, $49.98. Didn't they teach you anything with my eBays?
$49.95. But yeah, it was. I love picking up the cheap paperbacks. Yeah. So I am set for my winter reading. Comic wise, I think those were about all I got. Let me look. Yep, everything else was at Comics. Oh wait, no, I picked up Volume 1 of Captain Science, which is one of those PS art books. It's the reprints of the public domain stuff that Roy Thomas puts his name on, forward by Roy Thomas. And I always tell people, because they're in previews for $60 each. Yeah, this one's $55.99. But if you go to Half Price Book and Magazine, they got them there between $10 and $15 each for the hardcovers. I don't understand their business model of, hey, go to comic shops and pay 4 times as much. We're going to really screw ya. But all this stuff's available public domain, but it is nice to have it in book form every so often. So if I want, I can sit out on the deck and read it without having to hold up the tablet and turning the brightness all the way up and everything. So there's that. But that's what I picked up.
Next, we decided to go to Hot Comics New Hope. And since it's in New Hope, I'll just tell you it's at 3524 Winnetka Avenue. I think that's how you pronounce that. And I'm just trying to look because they had... Now, most of those comic shops we went to had some type of Black Friday thing going. I think Hot Comics had a deal where, like, all their trades were 50% off, but it was between 8 and 10 a.m. And I didn't feel like getting up that freaking early. So I'm just trying to now see I start getting confused as to what I bought where because it's all a blur.
This was the Hot Comics that had the really good discount section.
Yeah, they hadn't picked through their cheap stuff, and I think I picked up the Not Brand Eck Volume 1 Masterworks because I don't have these in my collection. I've either sold off my mint copies. It's got 1 through 13, the complete run. Well, they don't have 10 listed. I wonder why. 10 or 11. Or maybe it's just because it's not on the cover. I'm spoiled with the omnibus. They show everything.
Those might be the...
No, they're there. They're there. 1 through 13, they just didn't show them on the back cover. And, the Nut Brand Eck was just the comic magazine for non-believers who hate comic magazines. Just a lot of goofy fun. A lot of these I've never read because usually when I pick up a copy, it's real newsprint and it doesn't fade with time. And if you get yourself a nice mint one, you don't want to get your fingerprints all over it. So I'm looking forward to read this stuff. Sometimes comics have got to be fun. And then I did go back and I remember picking up Mystery in Space with Captain Comic plus The Weird. This was the Jim Starlin, Shane Davis, Matt Banning, and Al Milgrom miniseries that DC pumped out. I'm not quite sure when they did it, but it was, I believe, an 8 or 9 issue miniseries. And then to fill out the second issue, the second volume, because there's 2 volumes in this, they did the 1988 Starlin, Bernie Wrightston, The Weird miniseries. And, which itself was kind of a done in one. So I'm kind of curious to read this. I did have a set of this. It might still be on my eBay stores. Never read it. But, Jim Starlin, we talked about that when we talked about our dream teams. We want to let him go play Cosmic. And this is to see what he's doing. I can't wait to read him. Should be a lot of fun. And I think I picked this up at, I picked this up later on. It doesn't matter. I'll get to it eventually. Cory, what else did you go for?
Let's see. That was where I was able to get...
Oh, I did find Marvel Legacy #1 there. Because for some reason I never got a Marvel Legacy #1. And I picked up a Cable 150 just because the variant was kind of silly looking. How to draw Cable in 6 easy steps. And if you can get yourself a techno-organic eye, why not make it look like a real eye so you can blend it in better? You know what? I'm going to redesign Cable right here. Number 6, I've just been notified I am not to do that. Add a bunch of details done.
I picked up the original Sin tie-ins omnibus because I have the hardcover for Original Sin, but this is all the tie-ins and the 2 mini-series that were connected to it and all of that. And normally I would go, I don't care. But I did the math, and it's a $125 hardcover that I got for $30.
And I do recall somebody on Facebook was giving you grief over that, but
yes, David Beard was giving me grief, and I said, it's $30. For $30, you know what? I want to read it.
Yeah. Although there's a few things that we probably wish we probably didn't buy. Avengers Crossing, I'm looking at you. Mainly because I have a bottom shelf now of all my Omnibuy.
I'm glad I bought it for one simple reason, Joe. I got 2 podcasts out of it.
Yeah. See the sacrifices we do for you peoples.
The thing I like about that Hot Comics New Hope is the story is very big. It's very bright. Some of the stores I went in felt, even though they were like, they weren't like the old stores where it's, going into a dungeon. But some of the stores I went in, it's like, wow, you guys need to turn up the lights or you need to get more lighting or anything because it's just very dim. The lighting is very dim inside the store.
Get some Festivus music playing. Come on, peoples.
But I like the fact that the store was very bright. You could see everything. And Joe and I commented on the fact that both of the staff working, well, there were 3 staff working. 2 of the 3 of the staff working were female.
Yep.
And even 10 years ago, you wouldn't have seen that. I remember when Dreamhaven had 1 female staff. And Dreamhaven was kind of, they were more of a science fiction bookstore than a comic shop. And it was kind of a big deal. But now it's, we're getting more of it. and it showed in how the store was laid out, and it showed how, I don't know, it had a different vibe to it than comic stores used to have. It was much more welcoming. And there were kids running around, even though their big thing was what? Santa was coming the next day.
Yeah. And we did get to talk to a couple people about the one piece of the Hot Comics story that we don't know. We don't know how the current owners actually bought Hot Comics from Kristen, what attracted them. I left one of our business cards, so hopefully if they're interested in talking to us, we'll hear from them. We did hear one of the guy lives, I guess partners own it. One lives in New York and the other one's local. And we dropped a few names. I dropped Adam name so they know we're buds with Adam. We're not like trying to horn in on his podcast market.
We're legit. We're too legit. We are
too legit. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, good time there. The next stop was just a small shop I blabbed about last summer. It's in the Minnehaha Mile Shopping District. Heroic Goods and Games, 3456 Minnehaha in Minneapolis. Just a little small shop. I don't even want to describe it because it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Cory, what was your impression of Heroic Goods and Games?
It seemed like a nice little family-oriented game store, very neighborhoody. It was tiny. It had board games. It had card games. They had a magazine rack full of stuff that it was real easy to tell it came from their personal collection. They were just wanting to get rid of it. One of the themes that I saw was that they had a lot of original Nintendo games. The original Nintendo, the NES, they had the cartridges. And the cartridges aren't that expensive, especially when you think that those games are 30 years old. But they had that, and then they had the kind of the public domain machines, the machines that can play those cartridges. So, and we went to a bunch of places that had early Nintendo cartridges, and I've talked with people who are really into that stuff, and the original Nintendo is having kind of a comeback because the people who were into that are in their 30s and 40s now, so they're nostalgic. There's always the nostalgia pop. So, I don't know as I'd go there again because they really didn't have anything that I can't get at like the Source or something. But if I lived in that neighborhood, it'd be a fun shop to go to. Hey, we need a new board game. Let's go up and see what they got.
Yeah, that whole Miracle Mile is actually fun. Sometime in the summer, we're just going to have to start on one end and walk all the way to the other end. There was a store next to it, and I don't have the name of it. I didn't write it down. Where the guy, it was kind of an antique store, but he also takes antiques and he makes artwork out of some of it. And I know I've bought pieces from him before. There's a small-time bookstore up the road. There's ice cream shops. There's other antique stores. So it would be kind of a fun thing to do. We'll just park on one side. They actually do make festivals out of that whole mile. And like you said, it's a nice little neighborhood-type place to go. I did buy giant superhero holiday grab bag from 1975. It's got, I'm trying to think of who did the art, but it's got Spider-Man and Hulk and the classic 70s Cage and Doctor Strange and a Christmas tree. Because as you know, one thing I like to do to annoy my wife is to put up a display of comic books during Christmas. And the only reason she lets me do it is because the girls like it too. I can't put up anything, really weird, like, Lady Death eats Santa or that type of stuff. But
what about a copy of Santa Claus Conquers the Martians?
I don't have one at the moment. Or if I do, I haven't found it. But as I, go through what's left of the collection, I actually found two caches of Christmas comics. These are covers that I picked up and just hung on to for whatever reason. So I'll dig through it because I'm positive I had it at one time. If not, I'll find it again. Maybe find a decent copy as opposed to the beat-up ones you find all over the place.
I don't think there is a decent copy of that.
Who knows?
The comic may be in good shape, but no. Yeah.
And making his first visit to the College of Comic Book Knowledge,
The new College of Comic Book Knowledge.
4632 Nicollet Avenue in Minneapolis. Mr. Strode, let's hear your opinion, your impressions of the new College of Comic Book Knowledge.
Which is one of the oldest comic shops in the Twin Cities.
Yep.
And probably, I've told this story before. I had just been hired at Schindler's, and they said, "Oh, we'll bring you in a couple of weeks." And it's like, oh my God, I can afford comics. So I went to that shop because they ran ads in the Overstreet Price Guide. And as I was walking around and talking about comics and stuff, one of the clerks came up and said, "Hey, do you want to help us run a convention?" Sure.
Yeah, why not? I look like a chump. I mean, yeah.
I think it's well known that I'm a chump. You can get me to help you move anywhere. But the new store is much bigger, much nicer. It almost looks kind of industrial in that the ceilings are, 20 feet high?
I actually asked, Brainlock, the owner of it. I can't remember.
I can't remember who the current owner is.
Tim. And I asked him how high he was going to go. Because anything too high, you'd have to get a ladder. And, of course, he had back issues on the one side, just, sitting on racks, just going up. I mean, almost to the ceiling. He's finally got banners up high. So I think like I did in my store, you're going to get to a certain point where you're just going to put posters and stuff. Because otherwise, you're going to have that ladder coming out constantly.
I like how their back issues are set up. They're in drawers, but they're not the drawers that'll destroy your comics like the ones at the source. Oh, I would never buy a back issue from the source. Sorry, kids. But up in front, they had, their sale items where I picked up the Age of Apocalypse by the X-Men Age of Apocalypse.
This particular section was 50% off listed. And that day, there was a sign up. 25% off all graphic novels. And I looked at Tim and I said, "Are you saying, yep, 25% off, 75% total?" I said, "Dude, you're killing me. You're killing me here."
So I loaded up.
Cory
I got that. I got what else did I get? I got the Champions Masterwork. Just, stuff that they had, just piled it on. It was craziness. And the only problem I have with the shop is that it's too dark.
Yeah.
Because I went in, and the sun had been shining. So I've got those glasses that when you're outside in the sun shining, they turn darker. So I go in, and it's like, oh my God, I can't see anything. And as that faded, this is still kind of dark. So I don't know if they need to put in more lighting, they need more powerful lighting or what. But it just felt kind of dim when you were in there, which is weird because the sun was shining outside. So the back issues were nice. They have a great selection of trade paperbacks. I think pretty much everybody's stolen Joe's idea that he had 20 years ago of just, fill them shelves.
Fill them up.
Fill them up. Nice selection of the big high dollar books. And their sales section, it's stuff they're trying to get rid of because it's been sitting around. The funny thing was a lot of the stuff that they had in the sales section, you'd go back in the back and, oh, there's a regular copy. So it's pretty much, they were just moving their overstock.
Yeah. I ended up getting, I think I picked up the Squadron Supreme Omnibus, mainly because it has the graphic novel in it. I have a first printing with Mark Grunwald's Ashes in it, the first 12 issues, but I don't have the graphic novel. And this collects Squadron Supreme 1 through 4, Captain America 314, which crosses over, and then the graphic novel Death of a Universe. I also picked up the Guardians of the Galaxy by Abnett and Lanning. This is the Guardians that came after Annihilation. And this is part of the run that I got rid of in the Purge. But it was a pretty good reading run, if I recall right. And
yes,
I figured, for this, pick it up 1 through 25, Thanos Imperative, the Ignition, the Devastation, Annihilators 1 through 4, Earthfall 1 through 4, well, material from it. So, and I already have the Annihilation omnibus around here. Well, I don't have the Annihilation, but the Conquest one around here somewhere. So I done got that. And then I picked up a book I talked about in the free comic book day. It's called Young Terrorists published by Black Mask, Pizzolo, Nalpam. And essentially when I read it, it's pretty much about a couple people thrown into this prison. They have to fight naked to survive. And I think it was only 2 issues. I hope so, because that's all I've ever seen. I hope it's not one of those like, yeah, we were going to do a 3rd issue but never finished it. But they had the graphic novels 30% off. I figured, what the heck? I've been looking at them for a while. I just, never bit down and bought them. So decided to go with it. And, these will probably come up again when we get to, when I finally get around to reading it. And then, of course, at the last minute, while he was busy ringing up our sale, and he was very diligent about ringing things up and making sure we got the right discounts, I went back and grabbed 2 hardcovers that I looked at. I know I talked about the Secret Society of Supervillains, Volume 1 and Volume 2. This is, I don't even know how to describe this. This is a 70s series where they take Captain Comet and he's kind of going up against the Secret Society of Supervillains. And I'm just looking on the cover and I see Bizarro, I see Grodd. Who's that guy with the green mask and a mustache? I'm not quite sure. There's Poison Ivy, Sinestro, Captain Cold. There's the Royal Flush Gang. And it went... How many issues is this bad boy? 14 issues?
I think so.
Finished up in Justice League of America. No, I take that back. 15 issues, and there was a portion that sold me to buy the set. Again, these were 75% off. They put in the never before reprinted adventures from Canceled Comic Cavalcade number 2. And I thought, I will probably never, ever find Canceled Comic Cavalcade because they're bloody expensive. So I figured, okay, I'm going to pick this up. Plus, I can take now the run that I have of the Secret Society Supervillains, SSSV. Sounds like something government would make up. And go for it. Just put her on the eBays. And, of course, if any of you listening are interested, drop me a line. So I think that was a place that I probably spent the most of the money. We were pretty heady, because, we were finding stuff we didn't think we were finding, and that's half the fun of these geek days is when you run across something you're really excited about. So we decided, we're going to go hit Hot Comics Richfield and see what they had. And I looked around, but I didn't really buy anything from them.
I bought some packs of comics, and it's mostly stuff that they had really cheap. Like they had all but the last 4 issues of Rex Mundi, which is a series that was first at Image and then at Dark Horse. And I've heard good things about it forever, but it's always, it's been running so long and back issues. And you got the whole thing for $5? Sure. Some of the DC, back when DC was putting everything in the square-bound format in the early 90s, and I passed on those because it's like, well, that's not going to be worth $4.99 an issue for 4 issues. I don't even know these people. But you put them in a pack where you got the whole series there for $2.50 with the discount. Yeah, I'll buy it. I'll read it. I'll see if it's any good. Somebody at DC must have liked it if they put it in the high dollar format. And but my problem with, well, first off, that Hot Comics is also really dark. A lot of their lights are burned out and they haven't changed them. And I think that's something they've got to address. because it the store is nice, but when it's so poorly lit, it looks dingy. The second thing was that their discount section has not been rotated or changed in probably at least a year. Because pretty much everything they had there in their discount section was, yeah, I remember that from when I went here last year.
Yeah.
So it's stuff that nobody's buying. Take it to a con and dump it.
It was busy, though. There were a lot of people through, certainly more than any of the other stores. Although there were a lot of people wandering through college as well.
One of the things that kind of bugged me, not about Hot Comics, but overall, is both Hot Comics they had huge stacks of books unsold. And I don't know if they're just ordering poorly, or if that means that the audience is just not picking stuff up, or what.
It could be the variant cover phenomena too. You know, they've got enough variants and they've sold them, therefore the regular covers are sort of paid for. I did notice they had about 8 long boxes of just variant covers, and I didn't really go through them because I got over that phase. So that could be part of the equation too.
The other thing about these variant covers, I finally got to see, because I didn't order any of the lenticulars.
Yeah.
And I finally saw the Marvel lenticulars, and no, not impressed. You can make out one of the covers.
Yeah. They are,
but I could never make
cardboard.
it. When I turned it, you're supposed to see both covers, and I never saw the second cover.
Yeah, the cardboard wasn't as heavy as most lenticular cover, but they were the same price as the non-lenticular cover. Although, when we ordered through Discount Comic Book Service, you got a bigger discount by buying the normal cover. So, and that's probably what I went with a lot of them.
But, you know, both the Hot Comics are nice stores. I imagine they've got a really good subscription service. The service in both of them was excellent.
Yeah, they were pretty cool.
They were moving fast. They were engaging. They were upselling. They were positive. And I think that's one of the things that people forget at comic shops is the attitude of the clerk does a lot to whether I want to come back. I will go into your store once. And if you've got stuff on discount, you know, I'm going to come in. But if I have to go, do I really want to go there? Your discounts have to be really good for me to get past that. And we'll talk about that a little when we get to Cedar Cliff. But they're both really good stores. They were both very busy and nice setup and everything. There's the one thing I noticed is over the past couple of years that Hot Comics in Richfield is getting more and more crowded. Especially they're moving stuff up to the front. So I think they need to pull that stuff back, figure out some other way to merchandise, because it really feels like that front it's almost like you got to run the gauntlet to get through it. It used to be a lot more open. Now, okay, here's a rack here, and here's a glass rack here, and there's this rack here. Oh, and here's these standing racks before you get to where the new comics are or anything. And combine that with how dark it is, and I don't know what their walk-in traffic would be like.
I did notice that they don't have as many vintage toys. I don't know if that market's gone, if it's like, you know, if you seriously have a box sealed Transformer Optimus Prime first generation, that's the type of stuff you'd maybe give to an auction house to sell, or just there aren't a lot of people selling it. Or they've also, you know, they've been showing up at other places too. So, but that was one thing that Hot Comics, when I had the store, we actually were known for, is that we were the place to go for vintage toys. If we didn't have it, probably nobody else did. So it was a tough market to go through, though, because stuff slowly dries up.
And how many people are, rather than bringing it in to sell it to a comic shop, are going to just put it on eBay and sell it themselves?
Some people will, although I've been finding more and more people are less likely to do the eBays because it's time. It's not like it used to be when it first started. We're talking like, 2000, where yeah, I got something worth $100, I'll probably get 400 for it. Now something worth $100, maybe you'll get 20 for it. For every guy selling it at what the guide says, there's probably 20 guys selling it for less. So you can make money. It's a time thing. Is your time worth the effort, or do you just want to take what you can get and move forward? That's kind of one of the stores we didn't stop at. We didn't, and we debated as we were driving whether we were going to go to Dreamhaven or not. But Greg at Dreamhaven's always talking about these collections are just coming in, and people are just giving them away because nobody else wants them, and they don't want to deal with them. And he's turning this stuff over, but it's just a weird phenomenon what's going on now.
I got the newsletter from Uncle Hugo's, which is a science fiction bookstore in the Twin Cities. And he talks about that, how baby boomers are bringing in their collections and just saying, what will you give me for it? And he talked about how, with new books, getting paperbacks, the old-fashioned mass-market paperbacks, is getting harder and harder because publishers say they don't sell, so they don't print them. So then they say they don't sell, so they don't print them. But people are still coming and looking for those. And it talks about how he's got tons of used books because he makes a lot more profit off the used books than he does the new ones. And he's got more people looking for the used books than the new ones. And one of the things, I overheard someone talking about back issue sales, and they said, the stuff from 98 to 2006, it's just not there anymore. No one's got it. And it's something that I said quite a few years ago. Another case where, God damn it, Cory was right. Those issues of Spider-Man where stop stores were just ordering for the shelf. It's like, okay, we got the subscribers, put 2 on the shelf. It sold out, good. Whereas in the 80s, people, I can't tell you how many people would come in Shinders about one to read and one to put away, one to read and one to put away. Or shops would order and 5 automatically go in the back issues. That's how they planned their orders. Well, now, because, comic book sales dropped in the late 90s, those back issues aren't around. Those are the ones that are going to go up because it's people who are like, hey, the shop doesn't have any of those. Yeah, I could get them in a trade paperback, but I don't have that. So that's something to keep an eye on. The last shop we went to, Joe.
Well, before we went, second to last shop. But by this time, Cory was whining like a little bitch. I'm hungry. I gotta eat. And I'm like, well, we were gonna go to IHOP, but I don't want to go. And Cory's a non-meatitarian, so we had to go high and low and look all over the place. And
no, we didn't.
Yeah, we just went to Taco Bell.
I got me my 7-layer burrito, and then they've got the Fritos beefy burrito. You do know that anything at Taco Bell, you can substitute refried beans for the meat.
Yes, that white concoction that they mix and it magically turns brown.
Yes, it is pinto beans.
Pinto beans.
So had me one of them. So I felt very white trashy eating myself a burrito with refried beans and Fritos in it. And I also won the cinnamon crisps.
He did? Cory was
they have the little thing where you drop the coin in, and I dropped the coin in, landed where it was supposed to.
I tried one of those Dorito tacos, which is the first time I'd ever had one, and I got the ranch one. It was whatever.
That makes me understand why you had to spend the night on the couch.
Yeah. Oh.
Uh-oh.
I didn't even tell her about the crunchy gordita crunch I had.
You'll be spending another night on the couch.
Ooh. Well, it's a good thing. Well, we'll get to freaking or geeking. I said why I'll be happy to spend the night on the couch. But and then the store, which I think we've gone every time we've gone geeking, we've stopped at this shop.
Yep, but I think that run is about to slow down.
Yeah, Cedar Cliff Collectibles, again in Egan, 1960 Cedar, or it's Cliff Lake Road. And, of course, it's right next to a Target. And I didn't get it. Well, I did get some things there. I picked up one thing that I guess I'm going to end up flipping. I did not think I had a copy of the Platinum Edition of Superman 500, which came out way back in 1993. So there were two. There's the Death of, which has the S with the bloody thing on it, which is more rare. And then this is the Return of Superman. And I thought I didn't have it, but I do have one. So they had it cheap enough where I can actually just blow it out. And so if you're interested, you know where to go. And then I picked up another Christmas comic, just the Archie's Christmas Stocking. It's number 144 in the Giant series. So it's got a nice Christmassy cover. So one more for the collection. How about yourself?
And I picked up the Captain America Omnibus, which I was not even thinking of getting. It's the first run of Captain America from the 60s, because I have the Golden Age Captain America Omnibus, and I have two of the Ed Brubaker ones when they were put out on deep discount. But this one was never put on deep discount that I saw, but they were selling it for $40. So I figured I'd pick it up. It's a bunch of Kirby and Gil Kane art that, and yeah, I haven't read these stories since they were reprinted back in the 70s, so some good reading there. That's another one that I read over the holiday vacation where I just sat down, and it's funny how I would read the Kirby stories and go, wow, this is great. Oh, it's a Gil Kane story. I'd kind of half-ass read it. Yeah, Gil Kane's a good artist, but I wanted that Kirby stuff because in Kirby stories, Captain America's just like a pinball. And in the Gil Kane stories, it's more, more subdued. But no, I was wanting that Kirby magic.
They did have something there that I thought of buying, and it was originally I'd seen a copy of it at Comic College, and this is the old you snooze you lose, because I was looking at the X-Men Age of Apocalypse Omnibus, and I was thinking about it. I wasn't quite sure if I had it, if I wanted it or not, because usually a lot of times I get all excited about books like that, and then I read them. The JLA Grant Morrison run that I got from our old podcaster, Adam. I read those early issues, and while the story's fun, the art is just so damn 90s. It's horrible. And I looked at the covers, and I'm like, I remember this fondly. It sold well. I had a great time reading it, a great time selling it. But instead I picked up a Doctor Strange omnibus, and as I walked around the store, I thought, you know what? I must have this, because this was the Steve Ditko omnibus. I don't have them. I haven't bought any other Doctor Strange omnibus because I have them in Essentials and in original format. And I thought I better check. And I called, and my wife was nice enough to look up on the piano where I have most of the omnibus early ones. And she said, yes, I do have a number one there. So I went and put it back. By that time, Cory made his move. He picked it up, snatched it out of my hands, beat me over the head with it. But
actually, I just grabbed it.
Yeah, he had it while I was off wandering around. However, they do have copies of it down at Cedar Cliff Collectibles, and I thought, do I want to buy one now? And I thought, no, I got some stuff. Plus, I wasn't sure if the undercarriage and suspension in Cory's little car could handle, the hundreds of omnibuses we are now filling it with. Surprisingly, it did. But
we filled the damn car.
We did. Now, we did take a detour to Target because there was only one thing at Target I wanted on Black Friday, and that was a copy of the Peanuts movie, the CGI one that they popped out in 2015. And, of course, they didn't have it. But Cory found some things.
I picked up the Deadpool movie for $5.
Yeah, dummy me bought it at $30, $20 when it first came out.
The new Planet of the Apes movie. So now I have all three new Planet of the Apes movies. The only Planet of the Apes movie I do not have is the Tim Burton one, and I'm okay with that. Because I bought the box set of the originals, the TV series, and the cartoon series. And what was the other one I picked up? Oh, I picked up the new Alien movie. because I have not seen it, and it was also another one that they were blowing out for like $7-8.
Yeah.
So I figured, that'd be fun, and I thought I would actually watch them over the weekend, but instead, we will talk about what I did over the weekend when we get to Freaking and Geeking. And that was the end of our adventure.
No, it wasn't.
Oh?
Remember, we went back to Toyriffic because it was open.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't buy anything.
They had DVDs for $10, and I had to struggle to buy 4.
Yeah.
So, it was a mess.
Yeah.
It was really a mess. It reminded me there was this video game chain back in the late 90s that went under. And when they, when they first announced it, everything is 20% off. And a couple weeks later, it's 40% off. Then it's half off. And then all games are $5.99. And when you went in at that time, you had to be careful because if you open up the disc might not be in there, the case might be cracked. But that was my son's favorite Christmas because I just spent like $200. I got us a PlayStation and a metric fuck ton of games. And I put them in these nice little racks and just wrapped the racks. And we had the PlayStation early because I was dating someone who told me that I had to play Final Fantasy VII or we just couldn't be friends. And so that Christmas, he's like, "There's only 2 presents under the tree." And I go, "Yep, guess that's all there is. It's not going to be a really big Christmas." And he was all mopey about it and woke up Christmas. Well, we do our Christmas on New Year's Eve. We cook everything, and then New Year's Day we would open presents. So New Year's Day, normally on New Year's Day, he'd wake up like 5 in the morning and be sitting there. And I'd even sleep on the couch to make sure that he didn't open stuff before I got up. But that morning, nope, he comes stumbling out of his room around 8 o'clock. And it's like, okay, we'll open it. And he opened the first one, and it's just, it's like 30 games in a rack. He's like, "Oh my God." And he opens the next one and it's another 30 games.
Sweet.
He's like, "Oh my God, this is the greatest Christmas ever."
Nice.
But, they had tons and tons of used video games. And if I had more time for video games, I probably would have dug a little. But I've got stacks of video games here that I've bought at, we have a used video game store less than 2 blocks from my house. So I go up there and it's like, "Oh, look, this game that was $50-$60 is now $5. They're having a 2-for-1 sale or they're having a buy 2, get 2 free." I usually just, okay, I might want to play this at some point. So I have more than enough video games.
So now the question becomes 2. Do you think video games are a dying market? Is that why you think stores like Toyriffic are looking to bail?
I think used video game stores are in trouble because there are 2 major reasons. One, the new consoles, you don't have to buy the game at the store. You can buy it by clicking. And while a store may have used games, they cut the prices on the digital games, so it's like, oh, okay, click. Also, if you're a member of, if you've got an Xbox Live membership, you get 4 free games every month. 2 Xbox 360 games and 2 Xbox One's games. And I've been a member of that, so I've got like almost 100 games digitally in the cloud that I've got for free just because I have my Xbox Live membership. So that kills a lot of the back market. So I think that really hurts a store that's not huge, like GameStop. And I don't know, when I went in there, the clerks working were a couple of 19-year-old kids who didn't seem to know what the hell was going on. So the owner was probably just, hired a couple of scrubs, and then on the busiest day of the year, just left them. So I think it's more that store was very poorly run.
Well, it's hard to say because to me it struck like they just cleared out the back room and put everything out because they are going out of business. And that was kind of a similar thing that I went through when I was selling hot comics. Everything in the back, throw it out. Don't care if it's sorted, don't care if it isn't. Just lay it on the ground and let people dig through it. Because it ain't doing you no good as you're counting down the discounts and counting down the days until your store is gone. So, it could be that. It is a lot smaller. I've never been in the store because every time I drove by, I'd see video games, and I don't play a lot of video games. So for me, it wasn't a draw. There is a Toyriffic in Hudson, and I'm wondering if those two are connected somehow.
Yes, because one of the things they said while I was waiting in line was that whatever doesn't sell is going to the store in Hudson.
So, and they are in a high market area. Even though retailing, you read the articles, there's a lot of doom and gloom in the retail sector. That place that they were at is a place Gruber and I looked at when we had the shop and thought about moving up just to get more traffic, and the rents tripled. So they're paying top dollar even though they may not be in a top dollar area anymore. So, and like I said, I've never been over to their Hudson store. Maybe someday we'll do a road trip over there. Road trip.
I'm going to be doing at least one road trip next month, so.
But you're not going to Hudson.
No, I'm going to Duluth.
Yeah. And we already know every place in Duluth to go and not to go.
You know who else knows where to go?
Who?
These guys, our sponsors. That's right, here at the Solitaire Rose Radio Network, we have ads, and our first sponsor is me. That's right, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. I have my first book out with Dangerous Dan Moore. It's the first 100 strips of our online web strip, Worldwide News, the story of the lowest rated cable news network. And you can get yourself a copy with commentary, with all sorts of extras, with signatures and everything. Just email Dan over at lordshadowflame@gmail.com. Our top sponsor, who's been with us since day one, is DreamHost. DreamHost.com. You need yourself a website, and DreamHost.com is the #1 web host in the whole known universe. Just head over to DreamHost.com, put in the code KRAYZ, KRAYZ, get $20 off your first year. How can you beat that? Our other sponsor is Graze, GRAZE.com. Healthy snacks for a healthy lifestyle. Just head over to Graze, put in the code CORYS3R5P. Your first and fifth box are free. You can get them weekly. You can get them bi-weekly. You can get them monthly. You just order a whole bunch of them. It's great stuff to keep you away from the vending machine at work. Now, if you would like to leave a comment for any of the podcasts that we do, we'd love those. Go ahead and email us at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com, or you can call 952-856-0519. Operators are standing by. Okay, it's just a place that will record your calls, but we'll play them on the air. We'll answer your questions. We love getting feedback. Tell us what you think. Ask a question. Suggest a topic. Be a guest. Send us your stuff. SolitaireRoseNetwork@gmail.com. If you would like to advertise on any of the Solitaire Rose radio shows, you can. Just email us at SolitaireRoseNetwork@gmail.com. Subject advertising. Thanks. And after we do the ads, we ask Joe, why haven't you gone out to eBay and picked up the Peanuts movie? Because it's only $6.14.
We'll get to that.
And then we say, no, it's a Joe. What's going on
hello.
the eBays?
Nice lady.
Hey, lady.
The last 5 things I sold. Cory, are you familiar with Betty Page Comics?
Yes, I am.
From Dark Horse, 1996.
Yep.
Sold it. Cory, are you familiar with Action Comics 894, where Lex Luthor meets Death?
Oh, yeah. I vaguely remember that.
Sold the variant cover. Cory, are you familiar with Wilson's Treehouse of Horror comics?
Yes, I was very disappointed in this year's.
We'll get back to that in a second. Are you familiar, Cory, with Terry Beatty's The Phony Pages, #1 and 2 from Renegade Press?
Yes, that was him doing parodies of comics back in the 80s.
Are you familiar Mr. Strode with Hero Comics, the comic book legal defense fund. What would you call it? Benefit book?
Yep, they do those every year, although now they're putting out stuff much more often.
Yeah, this one I sold the 2009 J. Scott Campbell variant cover for IDW. See, if you'd have gone there before this podcast, you would have had a chance to get all these things at almost, I can guarantee you, the rock bottom price. Because what I like to do is I will look and see what somebody else has something priced at with shipping and make sure I am cheaper than them. So I've spent all day, basically, Holly gave me her entire Simpson collection and the stuff that I didn't get rid of at the Purge, and most of that was the stuff that she read to death. I was able to put about 20 copies of various books and things online from Bongo, as well as a ton of graphic novels. And Cory, are you familiar with the book Bitchy Bitch? Actually,
yes, by Roberta Gregory. What was it called?
Yep.
What was the name of the comic?
I know. I got a whole run I'm going to be putting on the eBays. So rather than spoil it here, why don't you people go check out the eBays? Crazy Comics, Krayz. You can link to it through Cory's website. Look me up by the member feature, or just go right to the store itself where you can see all the fun stuff I have up. It's Naughty Bits, by the way, was the name of it.
Oh, that's right.
And if you are a listener of this here podcast, you know the deal. Just let me know when you buy something. I'll either, if you tell me ahead of time, I'll probably give you a decent discount. I will put something in my remaining vast accumulation of crap. Maybe give you a nice freebie, or who knows? There's a couple omnibus around here that ain't pulling their weight. So I got all sorts of things to take care of.
Well, after Joe gets done with telling us what's going on the eBays, we get to my favorite part of the show, the part where Joe tap dances.
Oh, I thought we were going to sing covers of Suicide is Painless.
No, it's freaking and geeking. Joe, what are you freaking on?
I caught a cold. I hate colds. Oh, you know what? I forgot to tell you, Cory, I got rid of 5 more long boxes of comics.
Oh, really?
But not in the way you think. One of the strangest things I have, I know, I think everybody has, you dream about things in your past, either, you're a grown up going to school, or you're at a job you quit years ago. And reoccurring dreams for me have always been, my shop related. Never the new one, the crazy comics, but always the hot comics. They always fall into different categories. Either I've got a brand new store, and they always take place at night for some reason. And like somebody else has opened up one next to me. Or Brian has the store, the guy I bought the store from and sold it back to, and I'm waiting to either buy it from him, or I'm just jealous because he's still got it and I don't. Or I have the shop and it's so bloody messy and I'm trying to open for business, or I want to lock the door so I can keep people from coming in, and people are still coming in, and I'm trying to straighten everything out. I'm saying it's not just messy, but it's like back issues 5 feet deep. That's essentially the floor of the store, and trying to get everything organized and sorted. Or there's like some secret room that's, expands into a super warehouse where I have oodles of stuff, or it's empty, or it's a place I'm going to turn into something, or whatever. Or perhaps the most nightmarish of all this, I have, it's raining outside and it's leaking in the store. And this one by far happens almost constantly. Even if I have the store and I'm happy, all of a sudden it'll start raining and there'll be a water leak. And of course it does go back to, in the big store, I actually had a water leak right underneath the air conditioning unit. Water leaked through, and because it was a false ceiling, I didn't know it, but it leaked all the way to the front of the store. I remember actually poking a hole in it just so it would leak out into the bucket I placed underneath it. And of course, I don't think any merchandise got damaged, but eventually it was just, this particular area, do not put anything because it's going to leak. And the insurance guys came and looked at it. They repaired the roof. They did different things. I mean, it was just whatever happened. It was easier for me just not to put merchandise there than anywhere else. Almost kind of a miniature Tales from the Shop. So naturally, that nightmare came true for me. Part of the Thanksgiving tradition at the Ryder estate is that my daughters cook, my wife sets everything up and frets, and then I am the cleaning crew. So, and when I clean, I like hot water. I mean, like scalding hot water, and I scrub the things clean, and I make sure everything's going. And for some reason, we were taking a detour downstairs, and God is my witness, straight out of my frickin' nightmare, were water cascading down on top of the comic books. I mean, it was like a rainstorm broke open. I was like, well, let's just say I used every single swear word in my vocabulary, and I think I may have introduced a few new ones. Oh my! Basically 5 long boxes, drenched. I have not even looked at them. I mean, a lot of them are in plastic bags. If the quick look I looked at, some of the bags look like they're survived, but I mean, this is like my Supergirl collection. None of the Action comics, because I got those in eBays. I got them in a different part of my basement. But the Adventure Comics run, the Carmen Infantino run, the 70s series. I saw my Shazams in there. I've told Cory I had a run of WCW comics that I was trying to fit. Those, unfortunately, weren't bagged. So 5 more comics down. So making the grand total this year of, 19 plus 5, 24 boxes I've gotten rid of so far this year. Not quite the way I wanted to do it, but,
So what this means for my husband is that he only says the word comic 10 times in a minute versus the 40 times in a minute he said prior to this.
That's what I'm freaking on.
Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
Just steaming.
Are you going to throw it to me?
Nope, just take it. And I promise I will not throw things that are waterlogged into any eBay sales.
He's also developed a tick, which is a little concerning, which has made me ask him, is your life insurance paid up?
Thank goodness you got one of them government jobs. They got insurance on you.
As long as I pay it.
All right, first thing I am geeking on is, once again, over the weekend.
Nope. Freaking.
Oh, that's right, freaking. One of the things I'm freaking on, once again, over the weekend, one of the old guard have come out of the woodwork to tell us what's wrong with comic books. Jim Shooter gave an interview where they asked him, well, what's wrong with Marvel? And he said, well, first off, they're not doing done-in-one stories. Then he said that they're not getting their comics on the newsstands. And, of course, everybody over the age of 50 joined right in. Yup, that's what comics need, boy. We need to be back on the newsstands. We got to get on the newsstands. That's where comics make money. And no. Stop it. What I would like you to do, next time you're at the grocery store or the drugstore or anything like that, I would like you to go and look at that newsstand. And then I want you to think about the fact that that store only gets 20% of the cover price for the magazines on that newsstand. So they obviously couldn't give less of a damn about it because it's not going to make a lot of money. Then I want you to think about the fact that, Playboy, back in 1995, was selling around 4 million copies a month. And now it's selling a couple 100,000. I want you to think about the fact that Time Magazine used to sell 2 million copies a month, and now it's selling about 150,000. I want you to think about the fact that all these magazines that have died over the last 20 years. Maxim was selling 4 million copies in the year 2000. Now it's struggling to sell 150,000. You don't want to be on newsstands because people aren't buying magazines. People aren't buying periodicals. They're not going and, oh, look, the new issue of GQ's in. Got to pick that up. If anything, they're getting subscribers to magazines because, well, you can pay $6.99 for it at the newsstand, or you can subscribe to it for $12 a year, because magazines exist to sell advertising. They don't make money on the content. They don't make money on the newsstands. The only reason they're on the newsstands is so people will pick up the little card that falls out and subscribe, because then they could go to the advertisers and go, we've got this many subscribers. They don't make money on the newsstands. They lose money on the newsstands. That's why magazines go away when they're on the newsstands. And the done and won? Marvel tried that. They tried it. They aimed books at kids, just like everybody's telling them to do. That was the Marvel Adventures line. And it lost money, and they're keeping, they don't publish them anymore, but they're reprinting them over and over and over again, because they're like, well, you know, we've already got these stories. Didn't make money yet, so let's reprint them till they do make money. The old way of selling books is dead. Physical copies of things do not sell to people under 35. They don't want them. They don't want to buy a CD. They don't want to buy a DVD. They don't want to buy a Blu-ray. They don't want to buy a book. Old people are buying books? Yep. You know what's selling? Old books. Used books. We talked about it earlier in the show. Marvel, DC, all of them are pushing into new markets. The comic book periodical market is weird in that it still expects people to come in and buy a new issue every month. That's not a feasible, you know, nobody's going to go to the grocery store and go, hey, there's a new Spider-Man. You know why? Because they've already got a Spider-Man. They got a magazine down there. And you know, that Spider-Man magazine, maybe it sells 50,000 copies. And it reprints the stuff that was done for Marvel Adventures, and it sells to kids, because if you put Spider-Man on the cover of a magazine, it's going to sell there. You know how you can make money on Spider-Man? You put him on the cover of a magazine that has a bunch of articles about an upcoming movie, and you sell it for $8. No one's going to buy a comic book with 24 pages of story for $4 at the grocery store. They're just not. Okay? Can we drop it? Second thing I'm freaking on is, I don't really go to comic shops that often, but I took some time to look over the covers. Because covers used to be what sells a comic. And I got to tell you, the covers of DC Comics all look the same. They're dark. It's all blue and black, and everybody's gritting their teeth, and they're all in the same twisty poses, and they all look exactly the same. Marvel's covers, at least, are funny, they're weird, they have different art styles. All the DC covers look the same to me. And they may not say they have a house style, they have a house style. They all look like 90s image books. And for all the pissing and moaning people do about Marvel not selling well, guess what? DC's not selling any. DC's selling worse. The covers are terrible. They've got to figure out something to do with their covers. And then the last thing I'm geeking on, Joe, you know I like CM Punk, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know I like Master of Kung Fu, right?
Yeah.
You'd think it'd be two great tastes that taste great together. Nope. Issue 126 of Master of Kung Fu, written by CM Punk, sucked hard.
Oh.
The story was mediocre at best, but everything was treated like a joke. Everybody was cracking wise. Everything was funny. That's not what I want to read when I read a Master of Kung Fu comic. When you read Master of Kung Fu, there weren't funny issues. You had Brainaki, who was strange, but Master of Kung Fu was a comic about philosophy. It was about basically it was about being forced, if violence could ever be okay. It was a very philosophical book. It wasn't a ha-ha tickle party, and Master Kung Fu 126 was a ha-ha tickle party, and I did not care for it at all. So out of the Bring Back books, Power Pack I liked, Not Brand Ek I liked, Master Kung Fu, not so much. Joe, what are you geeking on?
One holiday down and a score more to come. And after that, tax season. And I mention that because, I do the MCBA's charity garage sale, and it's not too late if you want to donate something for this year's taxes for next year's table. If you're a retailer, have stock that won't sell. If you're a creator, you got comp items that you just don't want, or like you out there, your collectors got duplicates or triplicates of comics you don't want, unread, unloved graphic novels, items from those loot boxes that are just lame-o. Well, we're looking for comics, art, books, toys, CDs, games, DVDs, knickknacks, paddywhacks, doggy rubber bones, any new or slightly used items that would make a good item at the charity table. 100% of the proceeds are donated to the charity. So depending on your tax situation, you donate and tax deduct accordingly. Tax record forms available. And what's better, if you're in the Twin Cities area, I can come and get your donations. So get a hold of me via details through our Facebook page, through the Cory's interwebs, or just give me a call, crazycomics@gmail.com. Get into the giving spirit and help out for a great cause. As far as what I've read, you'd think with all the Omnibuy, I'd be hip deep in that, but no, I had to finish my Thor annual. I'm sorry, the Thor Digest, number 3. And, of course, it had the 4-part wonderful Magog story.
Yes. Probably my favorite Thor story.
I've never read this. This was such a treat to read. And I got to tell you, this helped me through the one day I had to go back for work. For some reason, they put a kibosh on me having last Sunday off. So it would have been nice. I had a week off. I would have had that day off as well. And then I'm into my 3 days, normal days off. But no, I went in. And, of course, since I had my cold, it was a hellacious day. Had I called in sick, I mean, it would have, because I had asked for the day off. I mean, it was like, oh man, that's so many different ways people that could bitch at you for it. So I sucked it up. I went in, but I brought this with me, and man, I gotta say, this was probably, as I was reading this, it was so amazing. I totally forgot I couldn't breathe and that I was sweating and coughing up my lungs. I agree with Cory on the rest of, well, they did do the one book I know I've had before. It was the Thor Annual 6, where he's with the Guardians of the Galaxy, the originals, of course. And then, of course, a bunch of done-in-ones for the various other lines. Some were Marvel Adventures, some were Avengers Assembled, whatever. But, man, I got to tell you, when you start with prime meat, filet of steak, everything else kind of paled in comparisons. But this was a lot of fun. I'm curious now, of course, and if you want to throw a spoiler warning up, you can, where Magog came from, because he showed up in the last issue of the One Legacy book, and I thought they kind of took care of him, but I suppose that's half the fun of dealing with it. And of course, they did say that a Thor would die, and Jane is dying, and oh well, boy, they just suck you in, don't they?
Boy, things also don't look good for the War Thor.
No. Well, he was kind of an idiot, anyways. Cory, have you ever read Avengers Extinction? There's a miniseries where Cable is just a big asshole.
Yes, and I have read that.
He understands why. I mean, he's got a good reason, but he goes after the Avengers, and the X-Men get involved, and I don't know how this ties into the current Cable, because at the end of it, he basically is. Now, again, this is a miniseries. From 2010. So I'm not spoiling anything really, but he loses his technovirus, so he's just a guy now. And this occurred before Avengers versus X-Men, or X-Men versus Avenger, depending on what team you're rooting for. So I'm not sure how this all tied into it. And I read it when it first came out. I reread it, and I'm like, it's a good read, but nothing worth owning. So that baby's going on eBay. I did read Independence Day, Dark Fathom. Titan Books has done what, is it Boom? Is done with, or IDW's done with their licensed products. They've made an entire timeline and an entire series you can read. And in the back of the book, they kind of lay it all out in a little more confusing fashion than I like, but they talk about this is all the different things that have happened in the Independence Day universe since we blew their ships out of the sky. This one here, Dark Fathom, deals with a ship that, I'm not sure if it was the mothership or another ship, that crashed into the ocean. And a lot of the IDW lines deal with the fact that, yeah, they took the spaceships down, but they didn't necessarily kill all the aliens. So that was where a lot of the fighting comes from. If you like Independence Day, it's a good read, but, that's all I can say about it. More entertaining was something Ted Noodleman, Bicycle Delivery Boy from Keplinger and Utley. This is a combination of web strip. Let's get some creators to do it with us. Just a goofy thing. Ted's basically an insane bicycle delivery boy who dreams up that everything he does is the guy has no sense of reality. He embraces his inner self, so he's either a Superman or he's Tarzan or he's a Texas outlaw, much to the chagrin of the people he's delivering the packages for and or the people that happen to be around him. But entertaining is all hell. This one book from Alias, basically, which is that an IDW imprint?
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. Anyways, this one particular book covers all the strips. There's a lot of fun in here because there's a lot of other guys who jump on. A good explanation in the beginning of who he is and what he's doing. And if you haven't run across it, and again, you're just looking for some fun stuff, check this thing out. And Ted, I just laugh when I say it, Noodleman, Bicycle Delivery Boy. You too will wish you were a bicycle delivery boy. As terms of watching, being sick, there's not a lot to do. I basically sat down and started to watch some old favorites, the Borg episodes in Star Trek Next Generation. I watched The Best of Both Worlds. Then I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to watch the snippet beginning at the first episode of Deep Space Nine because it takes place at, was it Wolf 358 or 345, whatever. That's where the handed to him the first time by a Borg cube, and they did it because they had Benjamin Sisko was in one of the ships with his wife and kid. Was this a 25-year-old show, a 20-year-old show? His wife died because of the attack. He's majorly pissed at Picard. It's kind of very interesting watching Avery Brooks and Patrick Stewart play their scene with each other because Patrick Stewart, as William Captain Picard is just, hey, I'm talking to another guy, and Sisko is steamed, and Avery Brooks plays it just beautifully. And you don't see that a lot in Star Trek, where these are just two guys who just ain't going to like each other no matter what Picard tries, and for good or bad reason. Through sheer lethargy, I continued to watch Deep Space Nine, and I went in and I said, you know what? I have not watched all of Deep Space Nine ever. When I was on the road a number of years back, I sat down and watched all the war episodes when they got to the Dominion War. And Star Trek runs the gauntlet where, okay, we're going to have about 4 serious war episodes, and then we're going to go into a standalone spoofy Star Trek episode. It has nothing to do with the war, which is Star Trek, and it's annoying, which is why initially I just did all the war episodes. Now this time, I'm 3 episodes in, and it's fun because you see these actors as they're playing their roles, and they nailed them pretty solidly right away. That first season of Next Generation's painful to watch. Voyager is tough to watch, but Deep Space Nine, they kicked it in pretty good. So I've actually been enjoying that pretty good. Cory, I watched a movie. Let's see if Cory can catch which movie. It's a Disney movie, 1961, Technicolor. Haley Mills,
Parent Trap.
Bingo. Another movie I haven't watched in ages. And I remember certain scenes of it very vividly because they made me laugh as a kid. And of course, I was in love with, Haley Mills at the time. She's what, 71 now?
Probably.
Anyways, just a fun little Disney thing. A little more risque than I remembered, well, this is actually before that goofy rating system, but it was fun. And if you haven't heard of Parent Trap or you hadn't seen the Lindsay Lohan remake, which I guess was her introduction as well, it's just identical twins who are separated at birth. They meet at a camp. They realize they're sisters, and then they decide to switch places and try to get their parents back together again. And half the fun is just watching, I don't know, just seeing some of these older actors act, just a lot of fun. And I know you're all concerned out there because I did not get my $4 The Peanuts movie. And, I'd be bitter and just very dejected against the world until I got it. Well, I found a copy. Chris and I, Saturday night, ran out to Target quickly. And while she went off to get what she was getting, I ran through. And I found it in a weird location. It wasn't in the Target basically set up these huge cardboard containers. They had all the movies preset for their Blockbuster deals, and they were all in there. I found this one located in the medicine aisle, where they had just dropped smaller caps. I'm like, what a weird, it was just an end cap thing, and I looked through it and I found it. I'm like, oh, I got my copy. So I'll probably end up watching that, well, tonight or tomorrow, depending on how sick I'm feeling. So that's pretty much all I'm geeking on. Corey, what you geeking on?
The first thing I am geeking on is it kind of plays off what you said. Over the Thanksgiving break, I got caught up on some TV. First thing I got caught up on, I watched the last 4 episodes of the first half of the first season of Star Trek Discovery. And those of you who are whining and not liking it and say, bite me. It is amazing. I can't watch the first season of Next Generation. I remember at the time going, oh yeah, this is kind of okay. But I
will say there's a few episodes at the end that are okay. Maybe the one where Tasha dies, but definitely the last one where they kind of do the precursor. The Romulans show up. There's 3 guys from the 20th century, and we don't know it at the time, but that's actually the first appearance of the Borg because they're the ones who wiped out the outposts that draw the Romulans and the Federation, together since they hadn't been in contact with each other. That one's palatable. But
Star Trek Discovery, there's a lot of cool stuff in it. There's a lot of fun ideas in it. I like the characters a lot. And one of the things I remember with Enterprise, I didn't get it. I watched the whole first season, and to this day, I can't tell you about any of the characters except the captain, and he had a dog, and the Vulcan girl because she was always taking her clothes off.
Yeah.
That's all I remember of it. The characters in Star Trek Discovery are well defined. They're interesting. They're unique. They have personalities. I really enjoyed it. And it's Star Trek. It's funny to me that the people who are complaining about it don't seem to understand what Star Trek was about. Also, for all the stuff about canon, well, I will get to that in a minute. The second thing that I did, I watched the MST3K Turkey Day Marathon. 6 episodes of Mystery Science Theater 3000 were streamed on Pluto TV and Shout TV and through YouTube. And since it came back 3 years ago, it's become a tradition that I just, my Thanksgiving, I spend the morning getting everything ready, and then I let it bake while I watch Mystery Science Theater 3000 and laugh myself sick. And for all of the people who complain about, this doesn't fit with canon.
Sick, you're the one. You're why I got sick. You left yourself sick, and now I'm sick. You rat bastard.
Well, yeah. But all the people who, it doesn't fit with canon. I just have one thing to say to you. It's just a show. You should really just relax. And at the end of it, they tricked us. Okay, we're all done. Thanks. Goodbye, everybody. And then they ran the ads that they run at the conclusion. And I actually got my stuff and was starting to clean up. And they came back like, oh yeah, we forgot something. They announced the next season of Mystery Science Theater 3000 has been renewed by Netflix. So we're getting another season. And I'm very happy. By the way, if you have Pluto TV, they have a Mystery Science Theater 3000 channel that 24 hours a day they run Mystery Science Theater 3000. They have right next to it a Riff Tracks channel that runs Riff Tracks 24 hours a day. And so you got your movie riffing all set. The next thing I am geeking on, Don McGregor has announced that in the Black Panther book that's coming out in February, he will have a short story. So Don McGregor is returning to Black Panther. Marvel contacted him and asked if he wanted to write another story. And he was unsure if he wanted to, but those of us online convinced him that, hey, no, you've got to come back, do it for Billy Graham, who was one of the artists on his original run, for Rich Buckler, who also passed away. Dedicate it to them. And in dedicating it to them, he was able to come up with the story. And he's posting online that he's writing about 2 pages a day, which he says is much faster than he's ever written his whole life. I am going to try. He's promised that I will get to interview him at some point. So hopefully next year I'll be able to sit down and do the definitive Don McGregor interview. The art of the Simon & Kirby studio, I talked about it a little earlier. This is reproductions of the original art. It is beautiful if you are a Kirby fan and you can find this book. Is it worth $50? I don't know. You have to be pretty hardcore. I picked it up for $20 at Half Price Book and Magazine, and it looks like they've got a bunch of them out on the website. So go to your local Half Price Book and Magazine, which I was really impressed, because I've been going to the same one for years, but I went to these two with Joe, and they had a lot of stuff that I hadn't seen before. So it's like, ooh, I'm happy.
Happy Cory, happy Cory. I don't think you're happy enough.
And comic-wise, I read a few. The first one I want to point out is the new Amazing Spider-Man Legacy. He is back to working at the Daily Bugle in an area you've not seen him before. It's a nice little setup. I still enjoy Amazing Spider-Man. Dan Slott's still doing a great job. On Mighty Thor, they're doing a Mangog story. The latest issue was just a fight between Mangog and the War Thor. And, oh man, was it good. And Joe, now that you've read that Mangog story, now you know why I say, oh yeah, the Death of Superman completely stole its entire plot from that book.
Yeah, pretty much.
A book that I'd missed, I'm catching up on Marvel Unlimited, and that's Spider-Man Deadpool. And at first I was like, Spider-Man Deadpool, who cares? But then I looked at the creative team, and Joe, it's Joe Harris and Ed McGuinness, the people who did the original Deadpool run, including the much beloved Deadpool 11, which is where Deadpool goes back into an old issue of Spider-Man.
Yes.
It is not as funny as those, but it is pretty fun. And I got caught up on Judge Dredd the magazine, which is a huge magazine that comes out once a month. It's got usually a Judge Dredd story, one of the other judges. It's just, I like reading Judge Dredd in the book form, but the magazine is just, for every month it comes out with some really, really good British stuff. And if you can't get 2000 AD, this is a good magazine to pick up just to see if you like that sort of anthology. And the last book I am recommending, I have now sat down and I've read the first 4 issues of Mr. Miracle, and I am blown away. It's just as good as The Vision. It's by Tom King and Mitch Gerads. And man, those first 4 issues, you're going to read this book and your head's going to spin in a good way. You're going to go, I don't know what the hell's going on here. you're gonna feel discombobulated, you're gonna feel confused, but in a good way, because you're seeing that Tom King has something he's doing, much like with the Vision. Because I remember reading the Vision, it's like, oh my God, how are they gonna get out of this? But with Mr. Miracle, I'm reading it going, oh man, I don't know what's going on. I know there's something big happening, and I know it's all going to come together, but you're as confused as the main character in a good way. There's times when you read a story and you're like, I don't know what's happening, and you just put it away. In this, it's, I don't know what's happening, but I got to keep reading to see what happens. So lots of good comics. Lots of good comics. And at the group home, I slept at the group home every night over break. I thought I wasn't going to be working there at all, but nope, every night they gave me a call and asked if I could come in. And then with all the overtime I got from the full-time job, I've already paid for everything that I bought on our orgy of consumerism, Joe.
Well, then you must be all set for today. National Bavarian Cream Pie Day.
Ooh. Guess I'll have to stop at the store on the way home.
Ooh.
Well, believe it or not, kids, you've listened to us blather on about funny books for over an hour and a half.
Thank you.
And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
For a shiny new dime.
Yay!
Cory?
Yes?
What's significant about Iron Man number 127? In the issue, Tony Stark's butler Jarvis resigns after a drunk and out-of-control Stark verbally abuses him. Jarvis leaves a letter, resigning.
Ah, yes. That was a letter that a comic creator actually wrote about Jim Shooter and why he was leaving the company. Can't I remember who the creator was?
You pick yourself when I tell you who.
Was it Gerber?
Nope. Dave Cockrum.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It reads, Anthony Stark, I am leaving because this is no longer the team-spirited, one big happy family I once loved working for. Over the past year or so, I have watched Avengers morale disintegrate to the point that, rather than being a team or a family, it is now a large collection of unhappy individuals simmering in their own personal stew of repressed anger, resentment, and frustration. I have seen a lot of my friends silently endure unfair, malicious, or vindictive treatment. My personal grievances are relatively slight by comparison to some, but I don't intend to silently endure. I've watched the Avengers be disbanded, uprooted, and shuffled around. I've become firmly convinced that this was done with the idea of showing the hired help who's boss. I don't intend to wait around to see what's next. A couple issues later, Iron Man's writer David McKellen explained to readers that this was not the letter Jarvis intended to write. Due to a production error, the wrong text had been published. It was Cochrum's own resignation letter. Somebody swapped out Marvel for Avengers. Funny that.
By the way, it's pronounced David Michelini, and he always will help you know how to remember it by saying it rhymes with pickle my knee.
Oh, won't forget that. 20 cents to Cory, 10 cents to Michelini.
Well, and as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
You know, I've been listening to Suicide is Painless covers all day long. Don't ask me why. Just play something different.